Maybe you've experienced this scenario in the workplace. You're in a meeting, you have a great idea, and you voice it, only you're ignored. Then minutes later, a male colleague voices your same idea and everyone compliments him. Or you have an idea and voice it in a meeting and a male colleague uses condescending language to cut you down to size. Or how about this one? You're an expert in your field and then some random guy on social media feels the need to explain your life's work to you. For many female employees, this type of behavior can be quite toxic and it's earned a nickname of sorts: mansplaining.
A simple definition of mansplaining would be like a man providing a condescending explanation to a woman or explaining something that she already knows.
As more and more women began to share their experiences with it online and IRL, Michigan State PhD student Caitlin Briggs took notice.
It's like a buzzword, right? Like people have talked about it a lot in terms of popular press.
Briggs is an industrial organizational psychologist, meaning she studies behavior in the workplace and wanted to know, what impact does mansplaining have on employees in the workplace?
We wanted to have some empirical research to say, is this a gendered phenomenon? Because otherwise, all we have are these like anecdotes, right? So it feels like it is a real experience, but we wanted to be able to have actual data.
Why was this such an important, topic for you to study?
As a woman myself, this is something that I think about, or maybe someone is questioning my competence and I'm gonna wonder is that valid? Or I felt like I knew what I was talking about and that sort of thing. And I can totally identify with that experience.
So she and her research team conducted a 3-part experiment to study the phenomenon and its associated traits.
Another behavior we looked at is called voice non-recognition. Someone being ignored for their input, or maybe their input is being credited to someone else. We also looked at interruptions, which I think that is also kind of something that a lot of people think about, right? Do men interrupt women at work when they're talking or things like that?
The research included an online study where participants shared their thoughts on mansplaining virtually, and an experiment where the behavior took place in real life, sort of.
We did bring people into the lab and we had actors actually mansplain to participants that came in. Right? The participants didn't know that they were actors. They thought they were doing a kind of a group decision-making study instead. And then we surveyed them later about how they felt about their group members that they worked with. And then after that, they were, of course, told the real intent of the study.
So what was some of the anecdotes you received from the people that went through, that final experiment?
These behaviors can come off as really subtle, and that's why I think there's kind of like controversy, like you see in the media, is like, is this mansplaining, is this not? Because sometimes it comes off as really subtle, and so we kind of tried to make the point in this study that maybe these behaviors are really subtle, but they do have consequences. We were able to compare the reactions of men who were the target versus women who were the target. The key finding was that women who were the target of this mansplaining behavior, they seem to have more negative consequences than when men were put in this position.
Briggs's research found that this behavior can also cause damaging long-term consequences in the workplace.
Women, when they were surveyed afterwards, they felt that their competence was being questioned. They felt that they were the target of gender bias. And we also found that they spoke up after they were mansplained to less. So they kind of dropped their participation. And they also said that they didn't want to work with that person anymore. So if a woman is having these experiences with their coworkers and they say it makes them not want to work with them anymore, does that mean she stays there? Does she have a very negative experience in the workplace because this is how she's, these things are happening to her? So definitely I think there could be very, real consequences down the line.
What are some of the solutions to this type of mansplaining behavior?
Managers might be able to notice right in their work group who is maybe being interrupted when they're speaking, or maybe, a woman voices an idea and someone pushes back on it, even though, what she said is completely valid, but they're, questioning her for some reason and it's not really warranted. Managers can kind of monitor that in their group and kind of address that themselves if they're seeing it pop up. And another thing would be companies could develop trainings to educate workers on ways to appropriately raise doubts about someone's ideas. I know maybe that sounds sort of silly, but there's trainings on how to give feedback. We can have trainings on how to appropriately interact without having to question someone else's competence.